It's my pleasure to introduce to you a great friend of Putnam County, Congressman Bob Latta. And I'm going to be honest about this. He really doesn't need much of an introduction in Putnam County. Not only was his mother from Putnam County, down the Pandora Grove area, I think, and he spent a lot of time here in Putnam County as a young man with his cousins and doing various things. You'd have a hard time missing him more recently. In fact, if you've been to a social or a festival, a parade, a church supper, a ribbon cutting, a building dedication, a county fair, farm seminar, a business group meeting, did I miss anything yet? No. Yeah, and you haven't seen the congressman, it's because you haven't been looking. He's been there. I don't think you can outwork him, and his dedication to taking care of his constituents is unsurpassed. He's also easily the most popular congressman in Putnam County history, winning more than 83% of the vote last November. An avid hunter and sportsman himself, Congressman Latta has always been a strong defender of the Second Amendment. He has always been a leader in the Congress in the defense of the right to life, and I'm proud to see him on the stage every year at the March for Life in January. If you've been to that march, you either met with him or you marched with him. As the ranking member of the Subcommittee on Communications and Technology, Congressman Latta is helping to shape the future of broadband technology, which is critical to growth in rural areas like here in Northwest Ohio. In fact, I spoke with him on the phone this morning just to make sure that everything was on time and that I didn't have to panic. And he was touring the district at the moment with a member of the Federal Communications Commission, which included a visit for that FCC commissioner to the top of a grain elevator in Lucky. So that was kind of different. So just one quick anecdote. When I first became chairman and first met with Congressman Latta for lunch, I confessed to him that I was a little nervous because, one, I had never had lunch with a congressman, and two, frankly, I didn't know what to call him. I was thinking congressman or the honorable or whatever. And he said quite simply, why don't you just call me Bob? And I think he will let you all call him Bob too. Congressman Bob Latta.
Chairman, thanks very much.
And let me thank you all for being here tonight. What a turnout. And especially who we're honoring tonight. You know, you've all heard about these two gentlemen on both sides of us here. But you know, the two things you can just remember about Lincoln was he saved this nation and he freed the slaves. When you think about Ronald Reagan, when you think about what this nation was like before he was elected, two things come to mind. He had faith in America, and more than that, he had faith in us. And he instilled that back in us. And so that's what makes this party great, to have leaders like that. So I want to thank you very much for being here. I want to thank you very much for all you've done for me and through all the years. This is, you know, my mom's home county. The Keeneys settled over in Riley Township around 1840s, the farms. The Securities were over in the Miller City area before they moved over to the Grove area, and that's where my grandparents actually met in the late 1910s. My grandfather helped with teams of horses to help bring them over to the Grove area, and so that's how the Keene and the Securities came together. But just a quick story, I could do this real quick. You know, Jim knows this, and I know it. What happens in Washington, we have a lot of Capitol Hill police officers. They don't remember our names. They have to memorize our faces. So you'll see them looking at the books with all of our faces in it. And I'm a really early riser. And I was up one morning, a little after 5 o'clock, and I ran into a police officer. And I'm telling you, this is a true story. And he said, how are you this morning? And he said, hey, you're from Ohio, aren't you? And I said, wait a minute. I said, that's pretty good to remember one of 435 faces. You remember I was from Ohio. He said, well, that was easy because my grandparents had a farm in Ohio I used to work on when I was a kid. And I said, really? I said, where was it at? He said, you wouldn't know. I love that. I hear that all the time. You wouldn't know. I hear that from kids when they come to the Capitol from my district and say, where are you from? You wouldn't know. I wouldn't know why I'm there then. So I said, why don't you give me a hint? And he said, well, they were from Northern Ohio. I said, Northern Ohio? So well, like we're Northern Ohio. I said, well, it was a place up in Northwest Ohio. I said, Northwest Ohio? That's my district. And I said, where was it from? What county? He said, you wouldn't know. And I heard that every time he said this. And I said, well, give me a shot. And he said, have you ever heard of a place called Putnam? And I said, you won't believe this. That's my mom's home county. I spent most of my life growing up over there when I was a kid. I said, whereabouts? He said, you wouldn't know. Listen, I'm telling you, this is all true.
I said,
What town was it near? He said, have you ever heard of a place called Miller City? And I said, well, actually, my grandmother came from a suburb of Miller City called Elm Center. So, but, you know, it's a small world. But, you know, the other day I just happened to turn the TV on. I got home from a meeting on Saturday. Turn the TV on. What's on? The Ottoville Girls. I couldn't believe it. So congrats to the girls for what a great season. And we're such pride in this county for all of the teams. I know when I'm out in the district at night, I turn on the Ottawa station. I can listen to a lot of the football games. And a lot of times I listen to a lot of my relatives playing. But, you know, my wife would have liked to have been here, but Marcia, you know, she grew up on a farm just south of Stryker. She still digs me with this. She said, well, we started our farm before you did. And it's true. It'll be 186 years they've been on the same family farm. 186 years. And you think of all the turmoil in agriculture and everything that's happened, but they've been still on that farm just south of Stryker. And unfortunately tonight, this is crazy. I'm here in the district. Where'd she go today? Washington. And she does it to me every so often. Says, you know, I'm starting to get a hint here. So, but I just want, again, just real briefly if I could, just quick. What happened the first 2 years that this gentleman was president in this country? We enacted a tax law in this country to turn things around. When Jim and I were going around our district for years, we heard multiple things that he said, taxes are too high, regulations are out of control, and then you can list A, B, and C after that. And one of the things that this president made a promise of was to make sure that we're going to do something about tax reform. And when you saw what happened after we changed that law in this country, we saw incredible things. We saw companies going out making announcements before he even had a chance to sign it. That's what changed. You know, it was an attitude change in this country. It was like, let the people have the money in their own pockets to spend it the way you wanted to spend it, not the government. Not the government. The other thing this president said he was going to do was this. Remember this one? For every new regulation, you're going to get rid of 2. Because when Obama left, we got about $2 trillion, $2 trillion, that's a T as in Tom, in regulations. And so you've been seeing us scaling back, and I tell you one thing, again, when we're out, we never hear this. I've done over 1,000 meetings in the district in the last 6 years. And the one thing I've never heard anybody ever say, we're against all regulations, is they say this, give us regulations we can live with. Give us regulations we can live with. And that's what he's doing. The other thing is, let's think back real quick. Okay, when you're thinking about Ronald Reagan, remember the gentleman who was president before him? We had an energy crisis in this country. Remember a lot of gas stations around this country? On certain days, you couldn't buy gasoline because your license plate didn't end in a certain letter or a number. And remember we were being told, well, you're going to have to turn the thermostat down. Remember that? You're going to have to ride your bike to work and put on a sweater. That was American energy policy. What's happened in this country? We saw a resurgence because, again, it's letting the entrepreneurs, letting folks out there go out there and do what Americans do best. And what is that? Don't have the government on your back. And what we've seen happen is this resurgence in America when it comes to energy. Today, we're the #1 producer of natural gas in the world. #1. When Marcia and I first got married, we bought a house in Bowling Green. It was a few years old. It was amazing. About 2 months after we move in, I wake up one morning thinking to myself, I don't remember going camping. And I see Rita over here, her husband and I always camp together, my cousin. And I thought, I don't remember going camping. And that's because when I opened my eyes up, I was in our house and the thermostat needle was all the way to the other side. And so that day was Kiwanis Day, and I saw one of the guys from the gas company. I said, can you get us gas to our house, because it was all in the electric area? And he said, I don't know, because it was a moratorium zone. And later that week, he got a hold of me and said, you know what, we can get a gas line out to you. And so this is how fearful I was. I called my best friend, and this is really testing your best friend out, because I call him up, and I said, Fred, what are you doing on Saturday morning? You know, when you know somebody since you were 3 years old, he says this, what do you want me to be doing on Saturday morning? And I said, I need you to help me with a ditch witch to run the line up to the house before the plumber could come in. And he got over, we got it done. This is also an Ohio State, Michigan day. It got done quicker. But when the night before Thanksgiving, I'm out there in the pouring down rain, putting the dirt back into the trench, thinking, what happens if they come back and say they're not going to give us gas? Today, we are now exporting gas to our friends. We're exporting people out there that are saying, we need American energy, because if we don't have it, the Russians are going to shut us off sometimes in the middle of the winter. We need help from America. What about oil? We can outproduce the Russians and the Saudis in oil production. No more of this talk about, well, you know, you just have to ride your bike to work. You know, just think about where you live in Putnam County, and if you're driving 30 miles to work, or 25 miles, that's a long ride over and back. But that's what we've been able to do in this country. But again, it's having the right policy, but it's also having the right person at the top to make sure that when you have unfortunately in the last, Congress, you got a House and a Senate to get this thing passed. So from taxes to energy to regulation, this is important. Let me just say something real quick. You heard about the Supreme Court. You know what the Democrats are talking about now? Go back in your history to Franklin Roosevelt. When he wasn't getting his way, what did they want to do? Pack the court. What are you hearing from the Democrats today? Let's pack the court. That's their solution. Pack the court. And if you remember what they was saying was when that all fell apart for them, there was a switch in time saved 9. If you remember that from your history book. But it's important to remember what happens out there. But I'm just going to real quick, a few things that I think it's important just to point out. Number one, this is all true stuff. Especially this, Jim knows this. It's got to be true. It's in the Washington Post. But this is true. It's on the front page. It says, on patrol with DC's plastic straw cop. Okay? This is true. They're going around the city of Washington. They actually have an inspector. Okay? They have an inspector for DC Department of Energy and Environment to enforce the new law. And they stopped at this one place, right out of cashier at the Lotus Express at the Union Station, with a warning that the store was still using plastic straws by July, when a grace period expires, they could be fined $800. Here's one thing they're doing. How about this? You heard about the Green New Deal. Well, it's only about $93 trillion. Wait a minute, did I hear that right? $93 trillion? Yeah. Well, let me tell you about the $93 trillion. This is also this is the Hill newspaper. This is the statement from the Democrat number 4, who's what we call the D-Trip chief in the House. And Sherry Busso said this when they were asking her about about Medicare for All, which is included in this whole deal. She says, it's a little scary. That's one of them.
I can't make this stuff up. This even gets better.
How many people have heard of AOC? Okay, wait a minute. It's not the architect of the Capitol. Well, I'm going to make that straight right now. Okay. This is true. This is also from a paper in D.C. Sky-high taxes have many critics, including OAC's mother. Her mom moved out of New York to where? Florida. Why? Easy. I was paying $10,000 a year in real estate taxes up north. I'm paying $600 a year in Florida. It ends up saying that maybe daughter better talk to mom.
But again, on a serious note.
Second Amendment. I know Mark can't be here tonight. My cousin Mark, who's like a brother to me. Yeah, he came down with the flu, and I mean, he's got it. So I'm glad he's not here. But Rita's here. But let me tell you, Mark and I have been hunting together and shooting together. I've been along to the Collide Rod and Gun for so many years, I don't even admit it today. But when the Democrats are pushing this kind of stuff on the Second Amendment, let me just tell you what they want to do and what could happen about who you can leave and lend a firearm to, or you have to go through and get a background check. Well, let's say Mark and I were going to go hunting. It said, this is when you have to check to see, well, maybe you don't have to go get a firearm to a firearm licensed dealer so I can let him borrow it. It says, while reasonably necessary for the purposes of hunting, trapping, or fishing, if the transferor has no reason to believe the transferee intends to use the firearm in a place where it is illegal. Now, okay, here's a question. We're going to have people out there deciding on, to us, what's reasonably necessary. They passed this stuff. We didn't vote for it. That's what's happened. Jerry Nadler, who's the chairman of the Judiciary Committee, had said when they were at Rules Committee that he'd just take all semi-automatics and take the magazines. This is the first step, folks. This is the first step. Let's talk a little bit about, we were talking about what we heard about abortion. I got a text from one of my staffers. And in that text, he had put what the governor of Virginia had said. And I sent him back a text. I said, this can't be right. This cannot be right. I said, you've got to find another source because this couldn't have come out this way. Well, about 10 seconds later, you get it right back. It's the actual clip of him speaking. Never in my life have I ever heard the callousness of a discussion that a doctor would have if a baby is born in life because of the abortion, and we're going to talk about it. I couldn't believe my ears. In America? And then you look what they've passed in New York, and you wonder why we got a problem in this country. I was at a Right to Life meeting not long ago, and they're asking all of us to carry around this little cap. And I looked at this cap, and I said, you know what? Our first daughter was a preemie. She couldn't even get, that thing would be about twice her size. And she couldn't even get it on. She was about just a hair over 4 pounds. And it was a tough, I tell you, we had a celebration when she had 6 pounds. I mean, it was like, hallelujah. But we got to remember this and who we are. Because I'm going to tell you, if you think about this, when you're going out, because again, when you're thinking about who we're going to have on the House Supreme Court, or who you want to have on the United States Supreme Court, because which president's going to be making these appointments, and which Senate's going to be there, this is important. So when you're out, and your friends and neighbors ask you why you're a Republican, I think you can tell them quickly and easily why that is. It's very easy to distinguish who we are and how far left and socialist they've gone. It's where it's happening out there. One of the things I'd also like to mention, because it's a great dinner here tonight. We're having our 5th District dinner on April the 15th. That's a great day. It's tax day. It should be Tax Freedom Day. But Liz Cheney, who's our number 3 in leadership in the House of Wyoming, is going to be our speaker up in Archbold on the 15th. But we'd love to have you. I want to close on this. We talk about great Americans and our forefathers, but I think it's important to remember what Benjamin Franklin said on two occasions. First of all, I think that it's the grace of God that in the 4 months in 1787 that they assembled in Philadelphia, they've had such a group of individuals that have put together the Constitution as we have it today that has led this nation. Was it perfect? No, because nothing is perfect because it comes from man. However, when they shut those doors, took that oath, and all said they were going to work, and a lot of them, got fed up and they left, and there's a group that stayed. Rhode Island never even showed up. But they stayed there and they worked. And when Franklin was sitting there, and you notice the chair that George Washington was sitting, because he was elected president at the convention, and it had an engraving on it above it. It had a little sun on it. And he sat there and he looked at that chair during the convention, and he thought, is that a rising sun or is that a setting sun? And when they had accomplished everything and signed that document on September the 17th, 1787, he came to the conclusion it was a rising sun over this nation. But it was also interesting because on the same day when he left the Constitution Convention, he walked out, and again, remember, everybody had taken that oath, that they didn't say what was going on in there. A Mrs. Powell came up to him and said, "Mr. Franklin, what have you given us, a monarchy or a republic?" Because again, people didn't know. And this is what Franklin is reported to have said, "A republic if you can keep it." When those kids who don't think I know where they're from are on the Capitol steps, I asked them this question. Was he speaking to Mrs. Powell, or was he speaking to every generation of America to follow? And I truly believe that he was speaking to us. So my friends, it's up to us to take care of this nation, to take care of this republic, and to make sure that we pass it on to the next generation. Thanks very much.